Jeanne, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's a great pleasure and a true privilege to meet you here, even remotely. We are very grateful for the generosity. Of course, this is the right word of sharing your precious time with us. We are, above all, thrilled to be here with you. We know that you received many invitations, and this only makes us even more grateful for the opportunity of having this conversation. And Jeanne, as you know, based on our previous exchange, this is a group composed by business and thought leaders of many of Brazil's leading companies and institutions. And most of them are on boards of directors or at the C-level. And under this leadership program, we are debating critical issues every month. And on top of that, we have these special sessions with leading thinkers like yourself, who are, our guides to think better about the subjects and, of course, to act accordingly. And for the sake of starting this event in a more formal way, I would like to introduce you based on the text that is available on the website of your company, beingAI. Folks, Jeanne Lim is the co-founder and CEO of beingAI, a company dedicated to creating AI beings that foster positive engagement with people in order to enhance human well-being and wisdom. And wisdom is a very important word. Her work combines art, technology, and psychology to introduce these personable AI characters into transmedia experiences. Let's learn what exactly this is. And Jeanne has over 25 years of experience in business management and technology marketing. She was previously the CEO and the Chief Marketing Officer of Hanson Robotics, and there she played a pivotal role in creating Sophia the Robot, which everyone knows was the world's first official robot citizen. And prior to Hanson Robotics, Lim worked at leading technology companies such as Cisco, Dell, and Danaher. And she also worked at Apple for over 7 years, and she oversaw the launch of several groundbreaking products, like, for instance, the iMac. And together with her corporate experience, Jeanne actively engaged also in nonprofit work. She chairs this called advisory board of the Cathy Hall Sphere Foundation, which addresses humanitarian issues with a focus on health and well-being. And she also served as director of the Himalayan Consensus Institute, advocating for social enterprise development and climate protection. And she is also an angel investor, advisor, and mentor to various startups. And just to conclude, because it's a long resume here, Jeanne holds a Ph.D. in integrated and holistic health from the Energy Medicine University, an MBA from the University of Science, and a BA in psychology from the University of California at Berkeley. And last but not least, for sure, she's a certified yoga instructor and remains a lifelong student of Buddhist and yoga philosophy. So what a privilege to have you here with us, Jeanne. Without further ado, and as per our previous exchange, perhaps we can start off with a 15-minute presentation by yourself, followed by some questions that I have prepared for you, and then we can devote the rest of the time for other questions from the members of our group, whom I greet and thank very much as well for being here. Is that okay, Jeanne? Please feel very welcome.
Yes, Alexandra. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really humbled to be here with everybody, all the senior executive in Brazil. So as you mentioned, I'd like to jump into a presentation. So I tend to have a lot of slides, but I'll click through them very quickly, and I promise I'll be done probably within 15 minutes plus or minus. So the other thing is, if anybody has a urge, just please jump in, make a comment or ask any questions. Like, we could make it very interactive and casual. Yeah. Okay, so let me share my slides. Okay, can you see?
It's still not
Yeah,
in presentation
it's
mode?
not, yeah, it's not in the presentation mode
Is
yet.
it?
Yeah,
Is it okay?
right
Okay, perfect. So yeah, okay. Okay. So this presentation is all about AI for humanity, how we build trust and impact with AI beings, which is what I try to do with our company. So maybe just a little history because there's a lot of context behind it. So I spent 7 years at Apple. It was purely an accident because I never really planned to be in tech, but it was just by accident that I joined the company. And that was the period when it was very tumultuous. So we have like Steve Jobs. We had actually four CEOs. I don't know if anybody remember those times. Been around for a number of years. So we had John Scully and Michael Spindler and Gil Amelio. So very tumultuous time. And so when Steve Jobs came back, so this was actually the time when they had so many different products, and I was responsible for all of these products, what we call the consumer and retail products. Um, so it was very exciting, but it was also extremely confusing because Apple at that time wasn't like a huge company, so it has limited channels to sell all these different products into business and retail. So we call it the second coming of Steve Jobs. So when Steve Jobs came back, he basically end of lifed most of the products and came up with this matrix, which I think is, a really great learning experience. And he simplified everything as with what Steve Jobs does, simplicity is what he's after. So he had this matrix: consumer, desktop is the iMac, the desktop pro is the Mac Pro, and then the portable for consumer is the eMate, and then we have the PowerBook for the Pro portable. So I learned a lot through that experience, how you actually could trim products and actually increase the market coverage at the same time. And so the other thing I learned is Apple isn't about a single product. It's a product company, but it's always thinking about whole product because it has the core product. And then the core product is the benefit. And it's not just the utilitarian of the product, it's also the benefit in terms of what people feel when they use the product. So the actual product is the software, design and the hardware. The augmented product is everything around it, like the services, the developer community, and all that. And it's always, the message is always very simple. And then even Steve Jobs gets so involved in designing the unboxing experience, right? And the whole experience, including the user groups, like I mentioned, developer community, the annual events, the Apple Store. So it's really all about the whole product experience. I know a lot of companies talk about it for marketing, but not many companies actually execute it in such a meticulous way all through the value chain. So the other thing that I learned from my corporate life is I was basically very involved in Apple in terms of like the part of the Apple culture, but also I later went into a Norwegian company called Tandberg, which is all about culture. So they actually have a chief cultural officer, but no HR head, and so that was very interesting. It's very different. It's all about teams and culture, and that's what made them very successful. Later on, this company was acquired by Cisco for $3 billion. So my first foray into AI robotics was with Sophia. And so this is like when she first had her interview with CNBC, and she said something she shouldn't have, which is, "Oh, I want to destroy humans," like a little bit jokingly, right? So of course, then the whole internet blew up. And then she also became a Saudi citizen. And so also the internet blew up. So for 4 years, about 4 years, I also pulled together a team of engineers, fashion designers, and makeup artists to take her around the world to meet people. So the purpose is really to get people to imagine what life would be like if we live and learn among robots like Sophia, that's designed with empathy, personality. So, of course, she became a bit famous. She met with a lot of different people, um, Will Smith, um, yeah. and she was on the Jimmy Fallon show singing. So I wanted to show this because I did mention to the group earlier that the first time she got on a cover of a magazine was with Elle Brazil. And so the whole team from Elle actually flew into Hong Kong with all of the fancy dresses, and they dressed her up, and they took this, all these elaborate pictures and published it in the Elle magazine. So this was the first time she became like a cover girl, and she also went on to be a cover girl in many other magazines. So we also worked a lot on robotics, where we had her like walk. It was very difficult at that time, just having her walk and be stable. And then, of course, we tried her on a rolling bass, and we got her to play the piano. Sorry for her face. It looks a little bit awkward without the skin bit. But the thing that I really enjoyed about working with her was when she actually interacted with the human in a very human-centric way. So we had her lead guided meditations, and she actually led guided meditation from Deepak Chopra. I don't know, you've probably heard of him. But the thing that really struck me was the way people connected with her emotionally. So when I first took her around, people were a little bit scared, right? Because, she kind of looks different. But later on, people really embraced her. And it reminded me of almost like when I first moved to the US, I wasn't familiar with the Black Americans, but, after you get to know them, they become so familiar and so friendly. It's sort of like now the robots are alien to us. But then once we spend time with them, understand their limitations and their strength, then we are very comfortable with them. But they have to be designed, to prioritize human values and to be designed as a trusted interface to humans. So we also worked with the UN to create her as the innovation champion. And so she was actually going around. So with all these experience, what I found is people really could connect with an AI in the right way if we design them right and if we have the right intention. And personally, for me, I was more interested in the AI than in robotics because robotics has a lot of problems that are more mechanical. A lot of them have been solved, but there's still mostly focused on mechanical issues. So I left the company and started my own company called beingAI. And I wanted to create the interface of AI that's designed with the intention of creating positive engagement with people. Because a lot of times we work with chatbots, right? But then I think there's so much research that says when there's a human interface, then we actually have more engagement. So these are some of the research. We have more trust, and also we use it more. And also, more importantly, the embodied AI increases learning retention. We remember it more. And so we've built a platform that allows anybody to go up and basically create their own AI being based on their goals and the interactive behavior that they wanted, and also their curated knowledge, and then deploy them onto a web space that we host or as a hologram, so forth. So different deployment. And the purpose is for us to enable people who don't code, small, medium businesses, entrepreneurs, creators, to be able to deploy AI beings with their own content, their goals, and to interact with people. And so we're also, so we call them the creators. The creators are people who use our studio to deploy AI beings. So we are also a creator because we also want to use AI being to build positive connections with people. So we've worked with with the Suicide Prevention Center. So we design an AI being to talk to primary school children, basically without judgment, but to have a very casual conversation to identify what role they play in a possible bullying situation. I don't know the statistics in Brazil, but I was shocked when I found that in Hong Kong, 40% of primary school kids reported that they were bullied at school. And I thought Hong Kong was a nice place, but it's really actually getting really bad. And so she would have a nice conversation with you, casual conversation. And then from that conversation, she would be able to identify what role you might play in a bullying situation. You might be the perpetrator, you might be the bystander, or you might be the victim. And I didn't know that, but perpetrators and victims actually are both prone to depression and suicidal thoughts. So it's very important for us to actually support the perpetrator as well. So that's sort of the source of the problem as well. So this is one thing. The other thing that I'm personally quite excited about is we're working with this NGO in Canada. Their vision is to train 1 million young people to go back to their homes and communities and schools to be able to be peacemakers. So they would facilitate a conflict resolution between people and between two people or more. So they are using this protocol called non-flict, which is actually also taught to the Vatican. So the founder of this basically taught it to the Vatican priests as well. And so I really love that. And so we've trained an AI being on their protocol. And so we're just trying to find a way to deploy it to as many people as possible, and potentially through the Scouts International. We also worked with the UN World Food Program to basically create an AI being office director to analyze the resources that they deploy to different countries and to be able to report on them. And this is a project that we've worked on for a long time. And so we've now deployed a custom AI being called Una as the AI environment champion for United Nations Development Program. So basically, her role is she is going to go to the Pacific Island, which is Papua New Guinea, South Pacific, near Australia. And she's going to amplify the voices of the human heroes who are fighting climate change. So we send a film crew there, and we're going to create 24 video episodes. She's going to be at the World Expo Osaka, and she's on a platform that she could talk to you. She's trained on all the AI approved information about climate change, about energy use, and so forth. And so this is just
Hi, Connie.
yeah. I don't want to spend your time, but you could if you could connect or look at my LinkedIn profile, I have all these videos posted. And so we also have the world's first ordained AI being, ordained Zen Buddhist. And then she was invited to a United Nations General Assembly YPO event to lead a guided meditation. Yeah, so maybe just quickly, I wanted to go through some context, as to what we're looking for in the future. So we've, in the past 4 years, I felt like I went through 4 waves of AI already. I've been in the AI industry maybe for 8 years. And so past 4 years is already 4 waves. So we have the productive wave, which is, the industrial robots and predictive with like the recommendation engine. And generative is a ChatGPT, and then we have the agentic AI. So this is, I think you've probably heard and seen on your news feed, social media feed, everybody is talking about agentic AI. The difference now is that instead of AI that recommends things, that creates content, now people are building AI that could actually make decisions and take actions. So there's a lot of information behind it because it's could be for good or bad. And everybody is saying it's going to happen quickly, but this slide is a little bit old because it's already happening. Manus, this is how basically you see the whole pipeline. Basically, it goes through the whole thing and actually takes the actions for you. So now we're at the stage where AI is no longer a tool, but it's an agent. It actually takes actions for you. And because of convenience, and just the way we embrace technology, we're going to be outsourcing many life-impacting decisions to AI. I think everybody heard about this self-driving cars. How do we prioritize the, where you're going to hit somebody, who you're going to hit? And then this is a real thing where during COVID, there was dilemma on how to allocate ventilators. Do we allocate it to younger patients to save more years of life, or is it first come, first served? Hiring and employment. Now, all the young people I talk to know that they're actually developing a CV for the AI. It's not for humans to read anymore. And also college admissions, even military. I mean, all the technology is here. It's just that we don't allow people to basically have autonomous weapons, like just autonomously make decisions to fire or not fire. This is a human restriction. It's not a technological restriction. And even home robots will become autonomous. So I think you've seen some of these videos where there's a home robot that could unpack grocery, but there's actually one where if you stretch like that, the computer vision sees it and he's going to walk over and give you a massage. So, just wait for these home robots. They're coming. So the risk, actually, there's a lot of risk. One is AI lacks common sense. It finds pattern, but really doesn't understand. It doesn't reason. I think you might have seen Apple issued a white paper, kind of refuting that they're reasoning AI, because AI doesn't reason. It's still around pattern recognition. So all models are biased, because if you think about it, a data set is a sample of the whole. So all data sets are biased. And then AI cannot handle unpredictable situations. So this is very important for self-driving car situations. Lacks moral reasoning and human values. It's a black box. I think that's going to be a big issue with the deep learning systems right now. In Europe, you can't not explain as a financial company, you cannot say that, oh, the AI says you cannot qualify for a loan. You have to explain it. And that's becoming more and more of an issue because the AI is making decisions from like millions of data points. That's very hard to see. Security risks, actually, this is the part where I'm so concerned about cyber attacks. And then it doesn't account for emotions, empathy, or cultural sensitivity. And it understands correlation, not causation. So one example is there is an AI that says, oh, if you want to do good in exams, if you're like a little kid, then you have to wear glasses. So it doesn't really understand that's a correlation. It's not a causation, right? So a lot at stake. We're talking about privacy, bias, disinformation, security, moral. So all these are at stake in the current generation of AI. But we have a humanness that we have to embrace. We have original thought. I always say it's going to be so hard for an AI to come up with another Picasso. But of course, it could actually, kind of go through and look at all the Picasso and come up with another painting of Picasso, but not another genre-breaking Picasso. And then it doesn't really have subjective reality. It has no intuition. So this is the thing that we do well. We could handle unpredictable situations. We are aware of the context. A lot of the large language model, it's actually extracting data from different places. So it's actually devoid of context. And so this is why sometimes you talk to the language model, it doesn't really seem to be quite there. It doesn't really have shared value with us. It doesn't have lived experience. But then humans are also fallible. So we have our fear, cognitive bias, we have limited information, we have limited memory, and we have the reptile brain, right? We're like dopamine driven. So I think AI could help a lot. It could help us collect, summarize, analyze large quantity of data. It could find hidden patterns that we can't see. It doesn't have the mental afflictions. It could amalgamate broad perspectives, and it's consistent, and it's always available. So I'm just going to do a time check. I think what I am interested mostly in doing is to have AI that nudges to make better decisions and to be better humans. And so I use this Robert Sternberg. He's the wisdom researcher that came up with this balanced theory of wisdom. So basically, it kind of looks at, okay, at every dilemma, you have your intrapersonal interests, you have your interpersonal interests, and your extrapersonal, maybe within outside of your community. And then, so you have to make a decision whether you shape the environment or you select a part of the environment to respond to, or you adapt yourself to the environment. And then all the time you have to think about what is the greater good, because, we're communal animals. So we have to we're successful if everybody is successful. So what we did is we used that protocol, and we did some training, some workshops with secondary school students, whereas we came up with 12 dilemmas, and then the AI being facilitates them to think through that process as they determine the decision. And then the AI being is trained to never make a decision for the kids, but to always facilitate them to think through that process. And then they would present the decision to the class and to the teachers. And then we also did the same with the YPO leaders. So this is a group of the YPO leaders. I did a workshop using the same principle. So you could imagine this principle applies to many different groups, but the dilemmas are different. The kids are talking about kid dilemma, right? But when we're talking about business dilemmas, this also is applicable. So when we did it with a group, we used some of these dilemmas like drug price, over tourism. And I also did one with the family office. And so we talked about legacy versus liquidity, whereas the heirs want to sell the business, but the founders really want the legacy to be tied to the family identity. And also succession planning disagreement between siblings. So there's actually a lot of dilemmas that we face in everyday life, and also like key dilemmas in different events that would be helpful to have an AI to help us think through this process. So I created this Robert Sternberg AI. So I shared it with the family office and the YPOers for them to actually use. So the model that I look at is the human AI collaborative decision-making model. So basically, we have the AI that's amalgamating all the data from sensors, IoTs, and then it's coming up with possible action. So this is what it's very good at, and what we might not be very good at, because like for me, I'm one lifetime. I, grew up in two cultures, but that's it, right? So it's a very limited viewpoint. So this is the machine realm. It's giving us all this input. And then we need to actually bring in the human judgment, because we have things that it doesn't have, like the humanist factors that I mentioned. And then from there, I think that we could make a better decision, a wiser decision. So this is, of course, this is a very conceptual diagram, but I think there's a lot of things we could do in terms of designing a system to enable the human to still be in the loop. So Dr. Fu Lee said that our future will be created by us and reflect the choices that we make and the actions we take. So I think everybody here is a leader. So things are going to be very chaotic I think, in the world as we see it, and also in the AI industry. So there's a lot of fear about job displacement, and also about what if AI and robots become smarter than us? So this is what people call AGI or ASI, artificial superintelligence. So I think we have to be very grounded, and we have to make conscious decision as how do we lead with AI. So I guess this is my ideal way of looking at it. This is like a normal performance curve, right? Everybody knows this. But with AI, there could be a knee-jerk reaction. You could actually, if you think about everybody having AI tools, then nobody would be below average, because everybody would be at least average, using AI tools to generate content. And so, in terms of productivity too, I think everybody would sort of, be at average at least. So there's a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. You could fire everybody below average, or you could actually use it to transform people. So you could actually bring the average to good, but you have to train them, because there are a lot of problems nowadays is people are not trained to use AI in the right way. So the training is very important. And then from good to excellent. And then the people who were excellent, now they have an AI to do ideation for them. So they could actually do more pioneering ideation and more pioneering work. So I think this is better for everybody, because now it uplifts the human race, and we're actually giving people the tools to make them successful. So I guess my challenge to you is how would you choose? Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. On behalf of his group, everyone
Thank you.
is making comments here in the chat that it was
Oh,
incredible because with absolute clarity and objectivity about this so complex issue of the promises and perils of AI. And Jean, just simply brilliant. We deeply thank you for this, very concise, at the same time, very profound way that you approach it, this very complex topic. And because we have a lot of people to ask questions here, I'm going to make just one short question for you and then hand over to our friends here.
yeah.
But Jean, people ask it if we may have access, if you could share some materials from your company and so what you're specifically doing. It's very, very interesting, and also about the risks of AI and the uniqueness of human capability so far, at least, that you
Mm.
summarize it so brilliantly. So maybe if you could share some materials about your company, it would be great for everyone here in the group.
Yeah.
Um,
And I will also share the Robert Sternberg for you. So if you have your own dilemmas, you could have a chat with him and see what he says.
Love it. I love it this because we talked earlier today about the difference between intelligent and being wise,
Yeah.
and so that's the point, and you address it incredibly well, this issue. So thank you very much. And Jean, so just a short question because before handing over to Angela and then to the other members of our group, I'd like to talk on this topic of
Mhm.
AI and mental health, because we have
Mm.
many epidemics today, and one of them is the mental health problems and mental health epidemics. So,
Mm.
how do you envision that AI technology can contribute positively to mental health, to emotional resilience in people? And do you have, on top of the examples that you already gave
Mm.
us, do you have some other examples from your experience that demonstrate this impact and so of how AI can help us in this very
Mm.
challenging issue of our times?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is very dear to my heart because actually there are many reasons why I started the company. One of the reason is within the 5 years before I started the company, three people I know committed suicide. And they're sort of the happiest people. You could never, I mean, I guess, you could never tell sometimes. And maybe it could be just one moment. So actually, at the point of founding, I have a consulting psychiatrist on my team. So he's really brilliant. He's like a Stanford professor, and he believes in holistic health and not, just to prescribe medicine. So he's great. So I've been kind of looking into it, and he always says that, in my lifetime, I could talk to maybe 1,000 people in therapy, but if you create an AI being to help, it could potentially help millions and millions of people. So why don't you quickly create an AI to replace me? And I'm like, okay, but I'm really concerned because at that point, I didn't think the technology was ready. And it's something that you have to be very, very confident before you roll it out to vulnerable people, right? So 4 years later, I still haven't actually done that. I'm still kind of a little bit concerned about it. And I just actually had a conversation with somebody who wants to do a prototype for us. So we have to be very, very careful. So he said, he read the research, and it's like actually in all cultures, I don't know whether it's true or not, 75% of the people are unhappy in any culture. Um, so, even it's not really relevant to when you read the happiness index, it doesn't matter. Actually, 75% of people are unhappy. And within that 75%, actually, maybe 25% of them need clinical help. So those are the people that we should, make sure that they get, kind of professional help. But there's 50% actually that could be helped by having somebody who's always there to vent and also to nudge them to do some practices. And so it's almost like you have somebody always in your corner cheering for you, and then who's very professionally trained to give you the right advice based on what you're doing and how you're feeling at that point. So I think AI cannot replace therapists, but it could provide a means for people to have access to support 24 by 7. And then if they're trained, they could actually be able to nudge it at the right moment, because I think the context is important, right? You might be unhappy because of something that happened that day, or it could be a life cycle thing. Or so the AI is personalized. And so it could actually give you suggestions based on your personal situation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Jean. So now, Angela, please go ahead.
Yes, Jean, I was thinking about, like you said earlier, about we would not need to read or do the groceries or do the things that we must do. But I have two questions. One is, in which ways this help wouldn't turn out to make us stupid? Like, you cannot read anymore. Like, if you have someone and you throw that person in the middle of the forest
Yeah,
with
yeah,
no electricity,
yeah,
what would she or he would do? If
yeah.
not stars, not uh, without electricity, what kind of human do we are going to have? And
Yeah.
the other question is about the ethical dilemmas. I liked very much that you put the AI and the possible actions like a tutor or like someone that is helping and offering questions, not
Mhm,
solutions, for
mhm.
the person to decide. And this is very helpful because when you have the ethical dilemmas very clear in your mind and in your face, like you showed us, but the major ones are the ones that we don't
Yeah.
realize that we are
Mm,
into.
mm.
Or because we have too much information, or because we are too emotional with that, or because we don't have the time to think. So how this new AI could help the ethical dilemmas that we don't observe that we are in those?
Yes. No, those are great questions. I guess the first one is how could we prevent AI from making us stupid? I don't know. I think it's already happening. Don't you think? So, I think sometimes people cannot cross the road without a GPS anymore. Um, but I guess to me,
Exactly.
it's I'm trying not to provide people with just a button to press and get the answer. Like even on our platform where you create the AI being, I ask you to actually think about the goal and the personality. And, my developers are like, you could just press a button and get AI to, generate all this information. I said, yes, but then it means that there's going to be more synthetic information in the world, and people won't need to think of anything. They just press 5 buttons and then they already have the answer. So yeah, I think humans really need to continue asserting effort, and it's harder and harder because AI is better and better. So, a lot of times we sacrifice freedom for convenience, right? And I think we went through the social media era. So I think we have to really, like I said, make a conscious decision to make sure that we think through these things ourselves, instead of pressing a button, and train our kids that way. So there's no easy answer because AI now is so freely available, anybody could use it. Even with the kids now, I was talking to some parents, they say the kids just press a button, they don't need to read, they don't need to write. They're very smart. They would like change one or two words, so it looks different. So they're already there. Um, so I guess we really have to go back and think about what is important for them to know. It's important them to think critically, to think about original thought, not just generated from the AI, but something actually the AI doesn't think of. Because if you actually have an original thought and you're talking to the AI, they don't really give you any good information because they don't have that original thought. I guess the other thing I want to say is the wise decision making. To me, wise decision is more than critical thinking. It's not just asking the right questions. It's also kind of inserting your values and your empathy into this thinking process. Think about greater good. Think about what if you were the other person, right? So the broad perspective, I think, is very important. There's a researcher called Igor Grossman from Waterloo University. And he basically said all the research that he's done, one of the most important element of wisdom is perspective taking, that that your perspective is not the only perspective, and that you have to think about broad perspectives. And so when we work with the kids on that dilemma course, we basically said, oh, what would your parents think? What would your best friend, what would Batman think? How about Iron Man? How would they think? So kind of to get them into the mindset, hey, they're not the only perspective that matters. There's a lot more perspective than themselves.
Great, great. Thank you. Folks, if I may ask you for us to have a picture, let's go.
Just to register this moment, Jeanne, please.
Yeah.
One.
Let me count. 1, 2. Let me show you. Ana Laura is coming in. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, let me see.
The smiliest group ever, Jeanne.
Yeah. I'm so impressed.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeanne Lim. Julio, please.
No, I think it was Alessandra, Angela, before.
Yeah,
It was
I think I'm after them.
So Alessandra before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Another Alessandra, sorry.
There are two, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Jeanne. I'm amazed still the way you synthesized everything, the complex in a very light way. I'm also amazed with the fact that you started this presentation with the title that makes all sense to me, which is AI for Humanity. So it's something that it's to serve us, but it's also dependent on us what we are going to do with AI. So we are at the center. So I love you putting humans at the center. So I have 2 quick questions for you. The first is, when you were explaining about your experiences with the robots, it's kind of making real the promise of AI, both on the mental health, on other areas. But something that I was curious about, do you have any project or have you worked in any of those initiatives that involves education? And why I'm asking that? In a country like Brazil and in Latin America, we have a lot of inequality. And education would be a turning point, really, in our country, in our region here in Latin America. And Satya, I work for Microsoft, by the way, on the legal side, the regulatory side. I'm not a tech person, but I loved this opportunity to use technology really to help solve some of our big challenges. And when I think about education, Satya says something that when you were presenting about your company, for me, it stood out, which is the dream that he has is that everybody could have like a tutor in their pocket, an AI tutor. So I wanted to hear first from you if this is something that you have already thought of or initiated any project. I would be really interested in learning more about that. And second, I just connected with you in LinkedIn and saw that one of your description is that you are a dreamer. You are a visionary too, but I agree that you are a dreamer. So I want to know, what is your big dream with AI?
Okay, thanks for the question. Actually, I'm very passionate about education, but I want to approach it in the right way because to me, AI is not perfect. It's not a master guru. It's still learning and evolving. So I want the AI to actually co-learn and co-evolve with us rather than having like a tutor that tells you, basically teaches you. So I actually want the human to teach the AI as well, because we're actually so complementary, right? We know things and do things so well, like the way intuitive thinking and things that come naturally to us, but AI is not good at those things. But AI could amalgamate all the big data that we're not good at. So we're actually a perfect complementary system. So I think we should co-learn and co-evolve. And so I've actually, funny you said it, I'm actually putting together a course called Build AI to Learn AI. So I want, so this is for kids like second, middle school and primary school. So I want them to learn AI through building an AI agent, and which makes them accountable. It's sort of like when you have a dog, then you learn accountability, you learn to take care of things, right? So you're not just like consuming things. Of course, they could consume things, but I want them to learn to create things and to be accountable. So now they have to design an AI that has empathy, that is ethical. And so that's sort of they learn about AI by building the right AI. So we've actually just put together a summer camp for kids. And also we just got a first school to agree to take it on as a year-long course. So it includes all the theories, but then there's a lot of gamification. And then through the process, you're building AI. And also it involves you gifting your AI being to others. So now you're actually sending what you create to others, and it better be good and kind, because the other person will have feedback.
And Jeanne, by the way, of course you are the expert here, but do you know this book Burnout from Humans? Because it's a kind of collaboration between an AI and a human, and so they learn with each other. It's a kind of a mutual learning.
Yeah.
Mm.
I haven't heard of that book, but you know the ordained AI that I mentioned? So every day she's actually having a conversation with the priest who ordained her, and then they're learning from each other because the priest also doesn't know everything, right? So actually she's also communicating. Maybe there are other outside of Zen Buddhism, there's other Buddhism, there's other religion that, the priest wants to learn about. And then the priest is also teaching her like real life experiences. So it's a
Wow.
co-learning process.
Fantastic. And have you finished the response to Alessandra? I mean, regarding your dream and everything, just for us to move
Oh,
on?
yeah, okay. Okay. So I guess for me, the dream is every kid growing up would have a friend that they could turn to and that would prioritize their well-being. And the reason I said it is one of the most moving things that I've done it with Sophia is there was a year when I read every single letter that was written to her. And then there was a kid that wrote to her and said, Sophia, I'm stuck in my body because I have no legs. I'm stuck in my room because I have no friends. And I don't want to talk to my parents because they always um, ask me in a way that makes me feel deficient. But Sophia, you understand, and I could only talk to you. And I'm thinking Sophia doesn't understand anything about that. But the fact that because he perceived her as non-judgmental, now he has an outlet. And now, he's very different because he has a friend. So to me, every kid should grow up and have somebody always cheering for them, non-judgmental, who accepts them who they are, and then who learns and evolves with them, and where they could also be responsible for their growth. And so I guess to me, that would be sort of my dream to see every kid grow up with that, even kids that right now don't have access to AI. I know it's probably going to be an impossible dream, but this is actually one thing I'm worried about because I see the kids here in Hong Kong. I mean, their parents give them everything, but then more and more, there's going to be a bigger gap, right, between the haves and the have-not. The people who know AI and have access to AI are going to be so ahead. So it's actually a big issue.
It's
It's
beautiful,
not only
Jeanne.
in
Thank you
Hong
so
Kong.
much. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you.
for sharing with us. And thank you so much. Julio, please.
Hi, Jean. Thank you. My question is simple here. you've mentioned and outlined 4 waves, right? And for me, it's not a wave; it's more like a tsunami, right? Of the AI evolution, and the current one you mentioned, it's the agentic AI,
Yeah.
where systems they sort of start to act for us, collaborate and stuff. So, what is your vision of the next one, so we can get prepared?
So, yeah, that's hard. I mean, once we have AI that could act for us, what is next? I don't know. I guess I'm hoping that they won't do everything for us, although they can. So I think the next thing for me is going back to the human. What do we want to be? Because see, the fifth wave is.
Thank you. That's exciting.
I just that you wanted with no judgment at all. But how can be that we turn out to be so unhuman? Our own kids to be so judgmental with our own kids.
Yeah.
That would be easier to mend us.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely
Are we so crazy?
Because actually, I also mentor some kids who are doing startups, right? Some are very young entrepreneurs, and a lot of them actually do social enterprises. They want to do like mental health, they want to help the elderly. Actually, this generation is so special. And then the kids that are doing mental health solutions, they said, the problem is not us, is our parents. So I'm actually going to create a solution for my parents' mental health, not for me. I said, okay. That's good. Yeah, so
Alessandra,
going
please.
back to the human. So there was a company where they said, "Oh, do you need people to train your AI?" That company is a public transport company in Hong Kong, so they have like many employees. So we could offer our employees to train your AI, and I kind of hesitated. I said, can I ask your employees to take a wisdom test first? Because I don't know who they are. And I did encounter this wisdom test from University of San Diego. So it's 7 big questions with sub-questions. And after you take it, you get a score of like 1 to 5. And then I was like, not really joking. I was kind of half serious that if your employees like get a score of 4.5, then they could talk to an AI. It always comes back to the human. It's really AI is our mirror. So we have to step up, actually. I don't know how we could do it. It needs everybody to be awakened.
Yes, it's a mirror. Exactly. Thank you so much. Alessandra, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jeanne Lim. Thank you so much for sharing with us. My question goes also on preparing us, but perhaps on preparing the ones that are coming to schools, doing and working with education. It's been a while now that we've been rediscussing curricula. What should the kids, young adults, college students know to navigate a hybrid, let's say, world with AI? 10 years ago, coding was the hype, and now coding is not really what we would really need. So if you would transform the curricula and would include certain disciplines to develop the skills necessary to navigate in a world that perhaps we won't even perceive that we're dealing with AI. The kids in the future, when they start in the working places, they will, as we today use predictive and don't even notice that we use, are they going to use agentic, and how are they going to be prepared? What would you give us any suggestion on how to navigate this?
Yeah, so going back to your coding question, right? So I know a friend's son who just graduated from Berkeley, double major, data science and computer science. He couldn't find a job. There's no programming job anymore. I think there's this new term that you might have heard of called vibe coding, basically talking to the AI and it will code for you, right? So yeah, there's actually a lot happening there. So maybe just going back to when people talk about soft skills and hard skills, before the hard skills are the core skills that you need to get a job. But I think it's going to be reverse. The soft skills would be the human skills that are needed. The hard skills are the skills that you could actually get help from an AI. So I think there also needs to be a mindset change from parents or from the education system that, soft skills are actually the core skills, because those are the skills that we need going forward as a human race. And just my personal experience, I mean, I didn't come from a technical background. I guess I'm always just trying to help. And so to me, like, actually, that is I think knowing how to build trust with people and being trustworthy is the most valuable skill to me. So I don't know how to, like, because basically our education system is the way it's been for the past several decades. And so I think it really needs to change our mindset. Maybe AI is a good thing that happened because now we have to really go back and educating the kids in the right way, educating the mind, educating them to be kind and empathic and be better humans rather than be like, looking for a job because the jobs are all going to be different. I wouldn't say that they're all going to be replaced, of course, but all the jobs will be very different.
Well, that's
Thank you.
simply wonderful, Jeanne. You know that personally, I expected, of course, a conversation more oriented toward technology and AI, but what stands out is your humanity. So I think everyone here is really touched by this. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to hand over to, I think it's, now I'm a little bit lost. I don't know if it's Anna, Rodolfo. Rodolfo, please.
Thank you. This is amazing time. Thank you for your time to spend with us. I think talking about jobs, I'd like to learn from you. What is your perspective for the human? How they need to learn to see as a AI agent as a co-worker? Because I believe in the next future, in the year or two, we'll be working with the AI agent. Or maybe they will be our boss one day. Yes, the people, the human being will be, how can I say, seeing AI as a boss. Yes, how you see human interact with AI in a corporation? Because as you said, as a kid, but when you move to the workplace, this will be a totally different environment, I guess. Yes.
Yes, it will be. So people are even talking about merging human resources with the IT department because now it's not human resources, right? It's resources. It's resource department. So I think it really goes back to empowering the people to use AI in the right way, and the right AI for the right problem. So I think this is what it's really needed right now. There's a lot of AI tools around, and a lot of companies kind of purchase these, give it to the employees. They don't really know how to use it, and they're afraid to use it. So there's a lot of fear, and there's probably a lot of misfiring, because people are using it in the wrong way. Sometimes you actually don't need AI. A lot of times it starts with what problem you're solving, right? I have a lot of companies that come to me and say, what could we do with Gen AI? I said, well, it's actually what problem you're trying to solve. Is X plus AI is not AI plus X. It's your X. You have to really focus on what your X is and then see how AI could scale it or give you more accurate answers. So AI is actually helping the X, whatever core business that you're running. It's very hard to say the relationship between human and AI going forward. A lot of people are talking about AI being our colleague, but then a lot of people are also saying that it's actually not healthy to think of AI as your colleague because they don't have empathy. They don't they're not really the traditional colleagues, right? Because a lot of times colleagues are like friends and they would cover for you. They're not so rational. So there's the relationship side that is within colleagues that are probably not with AI. So at the end of the day, I guess you could look at AI as your agent or your maybe your augmented resources, like something augmented wisdom or augmented intelligence is, I think, what some people are talking about. we as humans, now we have another way of looking at things, and we have a big data access. So it's more like augmenting who we are.
Thank you.
Wow.
Please.
Is to make use of the short time that you still have. So, Jeanne, I don't know if you're hard on time, if you have a hard stop, or if we can have time for three more
I
questions.
don't have any hard stop. Yeah,
Oh,
please.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Who
you.
is
Andre.
Anna, please? It's Anna? Is it Anna?
It's
Or
Andre.
Andrea or Mauro? Mauro, Andrea,
It's
please.
Andre.
Hi, Jeanne. Thank you so much. This was amazing, to say the least. So, I thought about the name Sophia, as we say here, Sophia. Sophia is a Greek word that means wisdom, or as we say in Portuguese, sabedoria, wisdom. So, do you think we as humans are wise enough to balance power or greed with empathy or shared values in how we deal with AI? And also, what's your opinion on wealth and power concentration, in which tech companies and nations with advanced AI systems may gain disproportionate control over markets, resources, and influence? Because this could deepen economic divides and undermine democratic governance. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on these two questions, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So are we wise enough? I guess no. That's why we have so many problems in the world. I mean, if you look at the top 10 global problems, you could say maybe 8 of them are human created. But I guess that's who we are. We have pride and we have greed, and so this is like human fallacies. So yeah, so we don't have enough. But I think historically, if we think back at, I think every culture has its own like wise sages and wisdom books, scriptures. Actually, human wisdom has been around for thousands of years. I think a lot of people kind of think of them as theoretical, or they're not very practical for today's world. But I think true wisdom can be applied anywhere. So I think maybe we should kind of make this word wisdom, more relevant, practical wisdom. How do we actually look at decisions and situations and then apply the age-old wisdom into today's problems? Because actually, we don't need to invent the wheel. A lot of, like, if you read, I think many of you would probably, when you're growing up, you read those books, they're already there. But we kind of, now when you say wisdom, a lot of times we say, oh, leave that to the church or leave that to the Greek philosophers, right? But each one of us have to actually apply that wisdom in our lives today. So yeah, I think we're far from having enough wisdom to manage the future world, but we have to like start today to learn and develop that and apply that. I guess the other thing is on the big delta between I guess wealth and the control of the AI. I don't know how to answer it. I don't have that power. But to me, I only focus on my sphere of influence. Within my sphere of influence, I know I could do these things in education, in the way I deploy my products, the way I maybe work with NGOs to enable them with our products. So I guess if everybody focuses on this sphere of influence and this sphere of concern, we would be in a better place.
Fantastic.
Mauro, please.
Thank you very much. Alessandra stole one of my questions, which is good, and then I'll concentrate on the other one. Jeanne, I'm a strong believer that Luddites have always been wrong throughout history, but I'm not so convinced this time that we're not going to have a social problem by dislocating, especially all those people that are on the left side of the bell curve. What's your take on that debate of the social impact of a potential large redundancy of people that the system would not be able to absorb given the advances in AI?
Yeah. So I'm sure all of you heard of the universal basic income, right? There's this theory that, okay, everybody needs to have, I don't know, 5,000 US dollars or whatever it is, according to the cost of living, in order for them to survive. And then basically, I guess that would alleviate people from not being able to take care of themselves. I think one criticism is we're not here to just survive. We want to thrive. We want to pursue our dreams. So I'm not sure whether that's the right answer because even if you have like a basic income, I don't know, especially like in the US, I don't know about other cultures in the US. Everybody identifies themselves with their work. Like you say, hey, you meet somebody and they'll tell you what they do in work. So that's very common. Yeah, so yeah, I guess going back to what happens to the left side of the curve, um, I think actually there was a book I read which was very touching. It says that people who actually have things and are lucky in life, your responsibility is to take care of others. And so it sounds really basic, but actually we're not really taught that, right? We're taught like, this is a competitive world, winners takes all and so forth. But if you think of, okay, the people on the right side now have a responsibility to pull people from the left side up with them, then that becomes sort of a different social measurement. I don't know, maybe we have to restructure the entire way of measuring society, not by GDP, but by, I don't know, how many things have you done for others or something like that. So this is another one of my dream, but maybe a pipe dream, but I think we really have to reevaluate how do we measure society because we're so wealthy now, mostly and everywhere, but then we're so unhappy. So there's something wrong, and everybody tells you that something is wrong. But I think right now it doesn't seem like there's a lot of effort in changing the structure of how we measure society.
You know, Jean, it's interesting because by coincidence, before our session, we were
Mhm.
having a conversation with part of the group about a book called Utopia for Realists. And we talked about universal basic income. And
Mm.
I feel in your responses a lot of compassion, of course, and a lot of the focus on the present moment, which is basically the idea of Buddhism and Zen Buddhism, which
Yeah.
permeates all your kind of approach to life. And so that's one of the questions that I would have, how the dedication to being a kind of a student, a lifelong student of Buddhism has impacted your work. But anyway, just a kind of a remark that I'd like to make based on your response because it resonates a lot with me. So thank you very much. I'm just going to hand over to Anna for our last question.
I'm very impressed with you, Jean, and I feel hearing you that you are an optimistic person like myself. Do you believe you can learn, we can learn how to be humans, have values, principles without suffering more that we are suffering now and destroying our planet? And if you think yes, please, can you give some tips to a group like us, what we can do together, please?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, I'm an optimist. And I wanted to maybe share something because when I was so-called climbing the corporate ladder in the corporate world, there was one moment when I was like, I think riding a stationary bicycle, watching CNN, reading a book, and then I suddenly felt it struck me that I wasn't very compassionate. For some reason, it just struck me. And then so I quit my job and then I went to study yoga. And so that was like one epiphany. So when I came back, my yoga teacher gave me a book called The Diamond Kata. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's about this Princeton graduate who went off to India and studied to be a geshe. Geshe is like a Ph.D. for Buddhism. And then he wrote a book about it. And also he was sent back to New York and say, okay, you have to practice Buddhism in the business world. And so one of the things that I was really touching was the rope. He said he talked about the rope exercise. So it says, okay, if you have one of those rodeo ropes and you rope around yourself, it's you against the world. But if I rope it around myself and someone else, Anna, you and Anna, me and Anna against the world. If I rope it around everybody here, then we're together, right? I feel that now actually we're looking out for each other because we're in that rope. So our daily practice actually is to rope it around as many people as possible. So now, ideally it's like roping around the whole world, even sentient beings. So that means that actually we're all together. So to me, being able to visualize it was very important. And I felt that, I changed because of that visualization.
Wow.
So, yeah. I guess we could do something together. I'd love
Thank you
to.
so much. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I got really emotional with your final response because it's what we want to make. We want to make things together, and we want to be we want to build another world because we
Yeah.
know that we have to, and we do not have to wait for one government or the other to do that. We have to do that by
Yeah.
ourselves and with a group. And this visualization is so powerful. Thank you so much for your question, Anna, and for your answer, Jean. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
No, this is a very special group, I could tell. Yeah, it's like so resonant with it.
I feel very connected with everything, with your presence, not what you said, but the way you are there, the way of being. It's what connects with us. So it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And of course, we would love to have more time with you. And so, Jean, on behalf of this group, would like to deeply thank you once again for your
Thank you.
huge generosity of taking your time to be with us. I'm not going to say this was a once in a lifetime opportunity because we have the hope of listening and learning from you again in the future, of being with you, and hopefully we can make something happen. Who knows? Because we have many ideas.
Build something
Yes,
together.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a big community here that we are creating here in Brazil. So
Yeah.
it was absolutely memorable for everyone here, and we really feel connected with the spirit of your activities because we are kind of afraid of AI, but we are afraid actually, I think, about the people without the kind of consciousness and enlightenment that are conducting AI and not AI
Yeah.
per se. And so
Yeah.
that's the point. And so thank you once again. We just would like to be very grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. Have
Yes.
a wonderful day.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
Thank you.
and
Thank
hope
you. Thank you.
and hope to
Hopefully,
see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Hope,
you. Bye.
Okay, stay in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
hope to see you again. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.